Welcome into the best damn college football show out there. It's Thanksgiving college football week, and I got two of the best alongside Rob Veno and Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Follow Robbie on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports. Happy Tuesday morning to you, buddy. Welcome in.
Good to be here, Drew. Big week, obviously. Thanksgiving weekend, always a big week with the addition of college basketball, as we were just talking about before the show started here. It makes it really hectic, but it's that time of year, right? NBA's around the corner, so a lot to concentrate on. Today we'll concentrate on college football.
We will, and maybe a little college basketball talk, but this is a college football show, guys. We got one Thursday, one Friday, one Saturday, a degenerate special, and best bets at the end. And without further ado, Ralph Michaels on Twitter at CalSportsLV. Welcome in, man.
You know what, Drew? We talked about it. We are going to have a college basketball show. We're going to start it next week. So, Joe Ranieri is going to come from outside the producing edge to host it. And, we're going to have multiple people on each day. So, there's a list of everyone that's going to be on. So it'll be a great show. And it'll be an hour a day, Monday through Friday, starting next week. So there will be plenty of college hoops talk as well.
Yeah, can't wait for that. I mean, talk about busy weeks, though, Ralph. We got college football, NFL. It's like a normal week here. It's just college basketball is getting added on with the Wednesday slate, right?
Yeah, well, it used to be so nice as a handicapper, thinking back maybe 4 or 5 years, because the college basketball season started so slow. You had a couple of the opening night, right, a couple more games. You can get caught up doing the teams you're doing. And just lose me? Nope, I'm back. Okay. So you can get caught up doing teams you're doing, but with 60 plus tomorrow, I do want to tell people I did throw together a guide. So it has returning starters, it has new coaches, it tells you where they were, it has recruiting ranks. Just go to WagerTalk.com, go to my page, and it is a free download. It's a full page per conference.
Cool. Good stuff there, Ralph. So, guys, check that out. And let's get into the games here. We got 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific here with 2 games on Thursday, Colorado State Air Force, and the one we're going to be breaking down in depth here, guys, New Mexico at Utah State in the Mountain West. We got New Mexico, the Lobos, -6 on the road favorites, 51.5 being the total at Utah State here, Robbie. And I'll tell you, it's not very often you get a team like New Mexico, in terms of straight up wins, kind of lacking here, laying near a full touchdown on the road. That's kind of the side I'm looking at here, though, Robbie. Interested in your opinion.
Yeah, I think it's the side that you would prefer to look at, Drew. Certainly, Utah State has given you no reason to look at their side of this game. However, the quarterback situation at New Mexico is so important here. Now, Tivaka Tuioti, the starter for New Mexico, he's missed the last 2 games. Mm-hmm. His backup, Trey Hall, has played. Yesterday, Monday, head coach Danny Gonzalez was hopeful that Tuioti would clear the concussion protocol and be on the practice field. He was not. It's interesting because it's a travel situation for New Mexico for a Thursday game. I would imagine Wednesday is the travel day. If Tuioti gets on the practice field today, maybe there's a shot he plays on Thursday, but we'll have to wait to see that practice report. They're so different offensively with him rather than Hall. Let me go over some of Trey Hall's numbers here real quick. He's quarterbacked the last couple of games as the starter. 24 possessions is what New Mexico has had in these last 2 games. Those games were against Nevada and Air Force. 9 of the 24, New Mexico gained 40-plus yards. 3 of those drives ended with turnovers. 3 of those ended with turnovers on downs. So only 4 of the 24 drives that he's quarterbacked have gotten into the opposing red zone. It's not a good number. 1 out of every 6, 16.7%. However you want to slice it up, it's not a good number. However, you have the other side, which is just a complete and total mess right now. Utah State, 13th youngest team in the NCAA. 68 out of 99 players are either freshmen or sophomores. Number 1 quarterback, Jason Shelley, gets dismissed from the team. He had made all 4 starts this season. Dismissed 9 days ago. Of course, we all know the head coach, Gary Anderson, fired. Defensive coordinator, Frank Maile, taking over. the quarterback position here is not even settled, guys, because last week before they canceled for coronavirus, they were going to have to go with their number 3 quarterback, Cooper Lega. The number 2 quarterback, Andrew Peasley, the guy who would start, had coronavirus, so he wouldn't have been able to go against Wyoming. He is back now, as is one of their top offensive linemen, but the head coach won't commit to which one of these guys is going to start the game. I'll give you just a little bit of background real quick on Lega, the third teamer. This kid's not only a high school football champ as a quarterback, he's a high school wrestling champion. He's a high school javelin champion. The coaching staff loves him. Both of these guys are dual threat. So they'll test New Mexico a little bit, but I don't know that this offense is anything near cohesive right now. For Utah State, they won't even have their offensive coordinator. Bodie Reeder is out on the COVID protocol list, so they're going to have their running backs coach, Dave Schramm, call plays here. It's his second stint with Utah State. He works, side by side with Gary Anderson the 2 times. We'll see how that goes. I'm not in the habit of banking on a team getting 6 points that hasn't gotten more than 12 first downs in any game yet. So for me, it would be New Mexico. If you want to really take a shot that Tuioti plays right now while it's still 6, because if information comes out that he's going to play, this isn't going to be 6 anymore. It's going to be 8.5. It's going to be 9, especially isolated game on Thanksgiving night. I would say New Mexico still the only way to look. Maybe Hall can improve on some of those offensive numbers with this team. Danny Gonzalez, by the way, has them coming on. They look a little more physical at this point in time. He says they have a long way to go, but they do look like the better side for sure.
And Robbie, that's a good point in terms of the line movement if he is pronounced going to play, because there's only 2 games on Thursday, and this is the nightcap here for college football. There's going to be a huge movement with a lot of people jumping on that news. So that was a good point. And one thing I wanted to bring up here is New Mexico, the quarterback situation. Their backup, Hall, I believe is his name. You brought up like the javelin champion, all that. Sometimes in handicapping, because I make that mistake, Robbie, a bunch, and I did with New Mexico last week. Just reading about Hall and not really seeing him play too much. And it's like, oh, he was an accomplished basketball player in high school, and then he's playing football for New Mexico. And I started to get into that, oh, this guy's athletic back there. And then sure enough, it was a huge drop off at the quarterback position. I actually thought New Mexico's defense played decently well against the Air Force option attack. It was just offensively, they couldn't do anything. So I think that is a huge move here. I mean, -6, in my power ratings, I would make, the quarterback playing for New Mexico, 5 or 6 points, Robbie. Right. I think it's that big of a move.
Right. No, I totally agree, Drew. And, last week, just so viewers who didn't watch the game, Air Force fumbles on 3 straight possessions in their own territory. And New Mexico can't convert any one of those 3 into points. Their field goal kicker misses 4 field goals. So, Trey Hall has not been able to really move the football for this team. It is a huge difference, as you mentioned, between he and Tuioti.
Good stuff, Robbie. And Ralph, we got New Mexico, Utah State, a lot of tickets going to be written on it, man. Are you interested in getting involved in this one in the Mountain West?
Well, the one thing last week taught me was this. If COVID's involved, you throw your freaking power ratings out the window. I played East Carolina against Temple. My power ratings were nowhere near that. Because you can't drop Temple 15 points. They deserve to be dropped 15 points, but I let my power ratings go down a max at a time. Kansas State gets blown out. South Carolina, the problems they have. This is the Utah State team. There's 127 teams playing. And Utah State, I'm looking at my college power rating matchups, which are free on my site at all. They're number 126. They're minus 2.9 yards per play. They're minus 283 yards per game. Let's remember, even if Hall plays, there's a big difference coming in and playing your first game against a much more mature and much more disciplined Air Force defense than a Utah State defense that's in turmoils with a whole bunch of new players playing different spots. You always improve your first to second game as a quarterback, so I don't even care if Hall is playing. I think New Mexico is the side. I think this is a COVID situation. No head coach, no OC, no quarterback. That it's just this season's over. So I'm gonna look to take advantage of those COVID situations, not let my power ratings get in the way for those teams that are miserable just trying to finish out the season. This is one of those games. Will it make my card? It's in the bottom. It's in the bottom 2/3 right now of games that I have. Like Rob said, if he does hit the practice field, it's a big edge. But even if he doesn't play, I would certainly have a clear lean with New Mexico.
Interesting take there, Ralph. And talking about, the head coach dismissed, the first string quarterback for, talking about Utah State here, dismissed off the team, the head coach fired, COVID issues at the offensive coordinator position. At what percentage do you think this game even gets played on Thursday night?
Well, it's going to get played because I think all the players are there. It's
right.
Utah State has not said they're in perils where any one position is hurt.
Okay.
And I think some of the conferences have 53 as a minimum. I know, two teams last week played with under 50. As long as you have one backup player in each position, that's enough for the league to allow you to play. So, I think if you're Utah State, this is a home game. You're not going to toss a game that you have enough players to play. And, the other thing to remember is this: while the coaching situation in Utah State is up in the air, from what I read in August in the Albuquerque paper, these players like Danny Gonzalez. So when you have a young, exciting head coach remember, you still have Rocky Long as the DC there. When you have a young coach and you have an expected veteran that you honor almost as a legend there, it's much easier to play for those guys than the Aggie situation.
Good stuff, boys, both from Robbie and Ralph here. We also got the Friday game. So we're getting one Thursday, one Friday, one Saturday game, the Degenerate Special on Saturday, and Best Bets at the end. We got the Civil War, 139-140, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific kick here. Number 9 ranked Oregon Ducks at the Oregon State Beavers here, Ralph. 64 being the total, with the Ducks laying 13 in the hook or minus 14, full 2 touchdowns, depending what sports book you're going off of here, Ralph. Oregon at Oregon State. What are you thinking in the Civil War?
Well, let's see. I was on Oregon State against Washington State and lost. Then I was on Oregon against Washington State and won. And then I was on Oregon again last week against UCLA, and I was embarrassed for their defense. Hell with being a Duck fan, I'm watching the game going, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this Oregon defense is allowing what they are, to allow 267 yards to UCLA with a backup quarterback and allow 462 yards and 27 first downs. The only thing keeping me from Oregon State being a stronger play in my mind at this time is they've struggled in a home dog role. They're 1-9-1. Again, this is one of the most veteran teams this year. We saw them play well against Cal. They did get outgained against Cal by 79 yards. The turnovers even though, but they didn't make those mistakes. They scored in the red zone, putting up 31 points on only 363 yards. Oregon made those turnovers against Washington State. That's why that game was close. But what I saw out of their defense now going on the road, there's no way I'm backing the Ducks in this kind of favorites role.
Okay, so it looks like Beavers are passed as the home dog here. Robbie, you in agreement?
Yeah, I would look toward the total here too, Drew. Now, I happen to be on the Oregon UCLA over last week. It was my contention coming into this season that Chip Kelly was brought to Westwood to, provide offense, and it hadn't happened the first 2 seasons. So if it was going to happen it would be in his 3rd year here. And so far, UCLA has shown to be a dynamic offensive team. Dorian Thompson-Robinson or not, they've been a pretty dynamic offensive team against, they played Cal at the spur of the moment, right? That game got, I think, announced on Friday. They had some COVID situations and they just paired those two up because those two could play. So California coming in with the defense of Justin Wilcox, even though it was the first game, there was some money thrown towards Cal. By the bettors, and UCLA came out and shredded that defense as well. So that's a good offensive team. The Oregon defense that Ralph speaks of really hasn't been good. Remember, first game of the year, against Stanford, they didn't even face Davis Mills. So it's twice now in 3 games that they faced backup quarterbacks. I think Jack West quarterbacked that game for Stanford. And Stanford, I think their field goal kicker, Jet, the kid's last name is Jet. He's an experienced kicker. He ran out there and missed 3 field goals in that game. Otherwise, Stanford would have been, that game would have gone over the total. Would have been 35-23 final. They've been over the last 2. The money got to the opener here. It was 61.5. I now see 64. It just, first thing I did when I saw this game was look up the weather in Corvallis, Oregon, late November. You're going to get away with a pretty good day by their standards. Field won't be wet, no rain, no real wind at all. The temperatures will be somewhere in the high 30s, low 40s. So that's great for Corvallis and for the playing conditions for these 2 teams. I don't see any reason why this game doesn't get over 64. The Oregon State defense has been nothing to write home about. Nick Rolovich's very first game with Washington State, they put 38 up on these guys. Both of these teams are capable of moving the football both ways. So the balance will get to the other side. Oregon, we know. We discussed the defensive absences that they have this year. So they had a lot of guys opt out. They've got a secondary that's really young. They've got issues. There's no question about it, but the offense has been able to cover it up. I think Tristan Gebbia, the quarterback for Oregon State, has gotten his footing. He's got a lot of weapons on that team, a lot of returning weapons from last year. To me, still at 64, Drew, the over provides some value here in this game.
He's Robbie Veno, number 1 handicapper on WagerTalk or Sports Memo. All sports year to date, up over 200%. ROI. So if you're looking for the most profitable handicapper out there in the WagerTalk media universe, it is Robbie Veno. Obviously knows his stuff in college football, guys. Check him out at WagerTalk.com. We also got Ralph Michaels, $2 handicapper, both today and tomorrow. We're extended in an extra day. Ralph, is that for college basketball or is it?
It is. Okay. I'm going to be posting a college basketball play by 7:00 Eastern tonight. So the lines came out late last night, early this morning. The Circa put them out. And I didn't want to put a play out this morning because, we know the lines could move 3-4 points, especially before game 1. So now that the lines are becoming established, I'll be posting that play again in the next few hours. If you go buy it now for $2, as soon as I post it, you get that email immediately.
And Ralph, I had my eyes on the Circa list there, both sides and totals they released. Do you think Circa is going to be leading the market all year long in college basketball, or are they going to kind of pump the brakes like they did last year?
I think they're more established now, and I think Derek, with the new Circa opening and making such a big deal of their sports book and their swim up pool, I think they want to be the first and be the leader. So it just depends on how good their numbers guys are. If their numbers could put out some numbers where they're not getting ripped early, as long as you're within a few, and like in football on Sundays, they're limiting, usually it's $500 the first couple hours, right. Then they increase the limits, and they're not afraid to take a few bets and be wrong on a few. But with college basketball, you don't have as much time to put them out. So hopefully they do. I will say this. We'll talk college basketball for 1 minute. 5 years ago, we used to use Ken Palm to beat college basketball, but now the bookmakers use Ken Palm. Yeah. So now it's our job as a handicapper to beat Ken Palm's numbers. Uh-huh. So if you're ahead of Ken Palm right now, you're going to make a lot of money. And again, the guide helps you. It does have Ken Palm numbers. It has Bartorvik's numbers. It has Blue Ribbon's list. So, I give you a variety because you'll find yourself getting burned if you just say, oh, I like Ken Palm's site and it's a great site. But, if you start looking at his forecast, you're going to say, oh, I don't have any plays. This is right where the line is.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, Ralph. I mean, Ken Palm for last year, I would say a couple years, was really the market. That's where it started from. I would say that was the originator.
Yeah, well, there used to be some rogue people that used to put the lines out and not have Ken Palm, and you could find some value. But, if you subscribe to Ken Palm, and I tell you, it's the best $20 you're going to spend.
Oh, yeah.
When you go on the back end and you look at the matchups and you can see the score forecasts, it's usually within 1.5 or 2 points of what Circa's going to open it at.
I mean, I really don't. I don't know. Maybe he is, but I hope he's not watching this. Ken Palm should be charging over $100 for that service.
Oh,
He
God.
would be.
If you're not spending $20 to get it, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw out Bart Torvik. I don't know the guy, but I think his site is even better than Ken Palm's. It's all free too. Just BartTorvik.com. Because when you click on the teams and you see his schedule to read, it's so readable with the offensive defensive efficiencies of opponents. But enough with college hoops. We'll talk about that more next week on our show.
Yeah. No, it's going to be fun. We got college football, college basketball starting this week. So it's a great time to be a sports bettor. But guys, we got a good one here on Saturday. Number 22 ranked Auburn Tigers versus the number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa, Bryant-Denny Stadium here, 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific kick on CBS. 62 and a half, a very low 62 and a half here, Robbie. Alabama minus 24 and a half or minus 25 at home. Nick Saban, Gus Malzahn, Robbie Veno. What are you thinking, buddy?
I got a question, Drew, before we go to Rob.
All right.
We're going to mention revenge, no question, because Alabama doesn't have revenge more. Do you remember before they played Alabama, because they had lost to LSU, so they weren't going to win the division, were they ahead of Oklahoma in the college football playoffs? Or was Oklahoma ahead of them? I'm trying to think if that revenge cost them a chance to get to the Final Four, because they would have had one loss. Oklahoma did win the Big 12, but they had lost to Kansas State earlier in the year. So is this, it would be so much more meaningful revenge if they were ahead of Oklahoma that it cost them a national championship berth. And I don't remember that. I just wanted to see if you guys did.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it cost them.
You think they would have taken Alabama over Oklahoma, a Big 12 champ with one loss? Because
I personally do, yes.
Because they made such a big deal about winning the conference titles. Now, I had Alabama power rated well over Oklahoma, that if you're using my power ratings, I would have used them. So the only reason I bring that up is because revenge is one thing. But if it's revenge that keeps you out of a national championship race, that is a different level of revenge. Go ahead, Robbie. Sorry.
Robbie? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, because Alabama only takes the field for national championships. They don't take the field for any other reason every single year. So certainly that is when it's, done in the Iron Bowl to you, you're not going to forget that. I mean, not that they forget any Iron Bowl result for 365 days or 364 anyway. That one's certainly not forgotten by Alabama. Drew, you talked about the total right off the top, and it's been pushed up, right? I saw 59 opener, 62 now. My very first inclination Sunday night or Monday morning when these numbers came up was to look at the under. But I keep going back to the Mississippi game. I mean, one of the things I do in handicapping is I try to find the most comparable opponent. So for me, the most comparable offensive unit to Alabama that Auburn has faced is Mississippi. When I go back to that game, if you remember it, Auburn played a Mississippi specific style of defense in that game. They were not going to allow Lane Kiffin to get anything deep in that contest. They were going to have to be patient. They were going to have to work the field. It's almost like a Tony Dungy, Tampa 2 umbrella. We're not going to give you anything. Wasn't exactly that defense, but it was, a light box forced to show Mississippi at the line of scrimmage. Listen, you can run the football if you want. That's what we're going to put 6 guys in here for. We're not going to stack 8, but you're not throwing it over our heads. What resulted in that game was Ole Miss had 79 total plays, 51 running plays. Only 28 passes in that game. Mississippi did try to take advantage of the light box. They ran for well over 200 yards, but 51 rushes. Auburn was run heavy in that game as well. Auburn ran the ball 47 times. You have 98 running plays in that game. 98 running plays at any other time. At any other time, Ralph, except for the last 10 years, 98 running plays and the game's over in an hour and 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's case closed. Guys, this game got over 62 points, which is what we're looking at here. That game ended 35-28 with all that running. And I'll add this. It ended 35-28 with Auburn getting a 100-yard kickoff return called back. There's one touchdown. With Ole Miss on 3rd and goal in the first quarter, throwing an interception in the end zone. There's 2 touchdowns that could have been tacked on here. With Ole Miss having a turnover on downs at the Auburn 24-yard line, counted as 3 if you want, but you're talking about maybe 17 points. That game could have gotten to 80 with the few possessions that they had, with all the running that went on. Even if Auburn chooses to do what they did to Ole Miss against Alabama, you could see the same 35 points being scored by Alabama, maybe a couple more. The question here is Ole Miss's defense is so pathetic. Will Auburn get their 20 or get their 35 against Alabama? And boy, I don't know. I mean, Alabama's going to get theirs. How many Auburn will get to push this thing over the total? And remember, I'm speaking totally from an over-under perspective here, trying to put mathematics and numbers together. I don't know if I could bet over, Drew. I know you called it a light 62, and with the way Alabama's scoring points, you would think it's a light 62, but I just don't know the way Alabama's defense is playing. Last week, how about this? UK scores a field goal on their second drive. I think if I get this right, give me half a second, guys. Their third drive, I think they turned it over on downs. And their fourth drive, they missed another field goal. The next 9 possessions they had last week, they never crossed midfield. They gained 34 total yards on 9 possessions. So Alabama's defense, which was a little shaky to start the year, is coming around in my estimation. Playing it over at this point would be difficult for me. I could see something in the, 41 to 20 vicinity. So maybe I would look a very slight Auburn. If you have 20 extra bucks and you just want to watch the game, maybe I would look Auburn, but the revenge factor comes in, which probably nullifies that bet. To me, this line's just in a great place, side and total.
Robbie, you bring up some interesting kind of angles here that I really didn't think about, talking about the Alabama defense. But you also have to throw in the caveat, yes, they played stout against Kentucky, Mississippi State, Tennessee, even Georgia, holding them to 24 points. But let's just bring the first 3, Tennessee, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Auburn's offense, especially now, I want to bring up the point that you got to remember in the preseason, this Auburn team went through the COVID issues, especially on the offensive line. They could not practice with the same offensive line. And sure enough, it took them a little while. This is a team that their blocking up front is a lot better now than it was in the beginning of the season. And you can tell in a win-loss, this is a team that's won and covered their last 3 straight, scoring over 30 points in their last 4 games. So the offense is kind of a different animal now with Gus Malzahn than it was in the beginning of the season. That's why I'm looking to be betting on Auburn to have success offensively. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, because Alabama's played very well, but it was against Kentucky. Kentucky's offense can't throw the ball down the field. Mississippi State has all kinds of offensive issues. Tennessee, I would say Auburn has a better quarterback than Tennessee, and I'm not really a Bo Nix fan. So you can kind of make arguments for both sides of this in terms of the total, Robbie.
You absolutely could, Drew. And to Auburn's credit, I think up until last game against Tennessee, where they didn't get to the 400-yard mark, they had gone 446 total yards or better in 4 consecutive or 5 consecutive games. However, even though they didn't get to the 400-yard mark last week, they still got the 6 yards per play. Somebody who really wanted to argue you, if you're in a bar room and a guy's coming back, they would say to you that the defenses that Auburn's gained these 446 plus against were not great defenses as well. South Carolina, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Bo Pelini. People gain yardage against these guys. So like you said, there's back and forth to all of this. Trying to come up with over under 62 is a little tough for me.
Yeah, for sure. And Ralph, let's get you in here, man. What are you thinking for the Iron Bowl?
I think you guys just had a great discussion. And for any new bettors out here, that's what you need to do for every total. If you say, I like this total and find all the positives and bet it, you're not doing yourself justice. It's as important to find out the negatives. Write down the negatives of why a game's going to go over. Write down why a game's going to go under. Look at them all, weigh the differences, and then decide if you're going to bet. So you guys gave great points to both. I'll say this. This was in a bar the other day, and someone said to me, Auburn's defense is so much better than Alabama's because Alabama gave up 647 yards to Mississippi, and Auburn only gave up 444. And I said this, you are an ass if you want to compare stats that way. Why? Because Alabama could not get stopped. If you are going to score on 2 plays, that puts your defense out there again. This Bama defense only had 4 returning starters. Remember against Texas A&M, the game before Mississippi, they were on the field for 82 plays. Then they're on the field for 90 plays against Ole Miss, and they never got to rest. Okay, let's go sit down and rest. Oh, Alabama scored in 2 plays. We got to go back out there. Oh, Alabama scored in 3 plays. We got to go back out there. Any defense is going to give up those yards when Alabama wins 63 and puts up 723 yards. So do not compare defenses unless you're going to compare the offenses, the yards per game diff, and the time the defenses got to rest between those offensive drives. I think that's the big difference when you're comparing those 2 games. So when you're on, I love playing against teams that are on the field for 90-plus plays on defense and then playing an up-tempo team again. That's something very important when I'm looking at totals. But in this game, I think there has been an improvement since that time. We saw them get run over. We saw them miss tackles. We saw them miss assignments. So, yes, you could say you've only played these opponents. My opinion is they've matured, and these opponents just happened to be the best there. When I look at Alabama's offense, the yardage they put against A&M was a season high. The yardage against Mississippi, a season high. The yardage against Tennessee, a season high. The yardage against Miss State, a season high. The yardage against Kentucky, a season high. Auburn, their last 4 games, the 481 they put up against South Carolina was South Carolina's 4th best. Mississippi, the 5th best. LSU, the 3rd best. Tennessee, the 4th best. So looking at numbers, it's not important to know what those numbers are, but look at what those numbers are relative to the opponent's average that they allowed. It shows the huge edges that Alabama has in this game. If this were a traditional game and it's Thanksgiving and it's the end of the season, when you have Oregon State, when you have Michigan, Ohio State, when you have Auburn and Alabama, I give 3 points to the dog automatically. That's how important I think these rivalry games are. It has a little different feel because it's not the last game before the bowl. It has a little different feel just the way the season has progressed. But, my number is 22, which actually has me leaning Auburn. But I am still going to jump out and I think Alabama, I'm going to go to the well again. I'll mention it in best bets, but Alabama first half has been very, very good to me. I've used them as best bets. Thanks for Matt for sitting in last week. I wasn't able to do the show, but again, if they were here, I would have given out a first half best bet on Alabama, which they won as well. So Alabama early, I think Auburn can keep it, will be able to score a few points, so I'm not willing to lay Bama for the entire game.
Okay, good stuff there, Ralph. And Robbie, anything in closing on the side here? Alabama looks like mostly minus 24.5.
Yeah, I'll just add to what Ralph was saying to the person that he identified in the bar room as an ass. The style of defense, again, just to build on the bandwagon that Ralph just laid out there, it means something. Alabama did not try to prevent Ole Miss from going deep. In typical Alabama fashion, they played straight up defense. If you can come beat us, come beat us. And Ole Miss did beat them. I mean, Matt Corral in that offense, if you're going to play them head up, they're going to gain their share of yards. They're going to get their share of points. They didn't fear it like Auburn did. Auburn backed up and said, all you can do against us is run. So, of course, the total yardage looks different in those 2 games. Of course it does. 2 different styles of game plan. So, again, there's so many things for people that are watching that you have to look at when trying to interpret these games and sift through the information and come up with winners. I would think, again, Drew, that 62 is probably in a good spot. I don't see, Auburn got outgained by Tennessee last week. Nice victory, but Tennessee goes for 464. And, Drew, I think you said to me, Tennessee doesn't have a great quarterback, and you're absolutely right. They still got 464 against Auburn. So a lot of that, when you're down 20, You're chasing. We all get it. But these defenses, to me, Alabama's a notch above. And we'll see if Bo Nix and company can get enough damage done to cover a point spread or send the game over. It'll be on Auburn to do both, to cover the game or to get this thing over. If you're going to bet over, you're dependent on Auburn getting you 20-21.
I agree, Robbie. I mean, I think Alabama's going to get theirs. They're going to be able to put up points here against an Auburn defense that, heck, let's face it, they put up a lot of points against them last year, and this is a lot different defensive front for Auburn this year, a big step down from last year's defensive front. So if they were able to do that last year, you'd like to think they're able to do that this year. Looks like 30% chance of rain, light winds, though, in Tuscaloosa, so it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, go ahead, Ralph.
Hey, Rob, question for you.
Yeah.
With your comment right there, would you say you'd be interested in betting the Bama team total over?
What is it?
Well, let's see.
I don't know what it is.
Well, it's 24 and 63, right? So 63 minus 24 is 39. So 39 divided by 2 is 19 and a half plus the 24. So it's going to be 43 and a half. No, 40, 24, total 63, guys?
Total 62.
62. Okay, so that's 38, 19. Bama's team total is going to be 43, and Auburn's is going to be 19.
Wow, that's right in that gray area, isn't it? Because I think I said to Drew I'd be looking at something like 41-20, 42-20. So it's right there.
No problem, guys, but that's another option, guys. When you're looking for value, all you do is basically it's not, the team totals aren't always that. I don't have my app to look, but that's where they start. And there's sometimes you could find value where maybe Rob likes the over, but someone bet the team total differently, where if you actually bet the team totals, you could find different value relative to what the game is for the over-under.
Good stuff there, guys. On the Iron Bowl, we got the Degenerate special to go in best bets to end the show. This is the best damn college football show out there. We got it on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific time, right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. We got the Degenerate special here, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific here, guys. Don't want to tell anybody to bet too much at the end of your Saturday or heck, too much of a get back. But if you need some action here to end your Saturday, Robbie, Nevada, Hawaii might be the way to do it. We got Nevada -7 on the island, 60.5 being the total here, Robbie. Nevada, Hawaii, you interested at all in getting involved?
Well, I don't like the Hawaii pass defense, so if I'm going to play this game, I'm going to play Nevada. And Nevada's proving, guys, to be one of the upper echelon defensive units in this league so far. It hasn't been the greatest competition, but they're an improved unit on the defensive side. Romeo Doubs, the wide receiver for Nevada, is raising his draft stock by the hour. Every time this guy takes the field, he's the best skill player on the field, and Carson Strong, the quarterback for the Nevada Wolfpack, has found a way to get him the ball, mostly because he's running past defenders, and it's not that hard to get him the ball. Hawaii's pass defense, to me, has not been good. And Todd Graham, head coach for Hawaii, I really do like the way that they've been working offense with this team. In games where he feels like his spread offense should be run-oriented to take advantage of porous run defenses, they've done it. In games where he thinks he can take advantage of pass defense, he's gone more pass-oriented with his spread. So which way he would choose to go here, I'm really not sure. Nevada's been good, probably better at defending the run than the pass. In all Hawaii games, knee-jerk reaction is to look at the total and see if you can get it over. Last week, for whatever reason, the game against Boise State came tumbling down total-wise all the way to maybe 55 and a half. I had people asking me questions on Twitter, Rob, why is this game coming down so far? And, of course, it went way over. Hawaii had a big second half, 29 points. Game easily got over the number. It's difficult to play Hawaii under in any circumstance, especially against a team that's going to be able to throw the football successfully against them. But I think, side or total here, I think I like Nevada -7 better. I just like their overall defense. And Hawaii, in the couple of instances where they've been tested by a decent defense, I think back to the Wyoming game in particular, they just didn't get the job done with their offense. So I like Cordero at quarterback. Like I say, I like Graham's outlook on how to attack teams game plan wise. But I would think Nevada minus the 7 is the way to go in this degenerate special.
Good stuff, Robbie. Ralph, what do you got in the degenerate special?
Rob, I had Boise, Hawaii over, and I had people reaching out to me on Twitter. This is a play. And Drew, I almost put it up at WagerTalk as a degenerate special, but I didn't want to do that. So, and I had the over, and I could tell you why the line plummeted, because it was reports that winds were 20 miles an hour. Well, let me tell you this. Winds in Hawaii at 20 miles an hour are coming off the ocean, and they are going right through the stadium, one side and the other. They are not cross-winded, and it's easy for a quarterback to throw, either straight with the wind or against the wind. 20-mile-an-hour winds in Hawaii are nothing like 20-mile-an-hours in Cleveland or Chicago. It's a completely different ballgame. So, again, that didn't stop me at all from playing it. But what I think we do get value with is Boise went into complete shutdown mode. They had a huge lead. Hawaii scores 3 garbage touchdowns. Hawaii could not move the ball at all. Cordero was horrible in that game. And then if you look at Hawaii's defense, Rob, you talked about the eye test and their defense. If I tell you their numbers are outstanding. You would think they're an incredible defense. They're allowing only 54.2% completions. Why? Well, they played Wyoming in a blizzard, and they were only 9 of 18. They played New Mexico a run team who was 19 to 37, and then at San Diego State with wind and San Diego State's horrible quarterback play, they were only 4 of 13. So you look at Hawaii's numbers and you say, wow, 54.2% completions. That's one of those fake stats as well that you have to look at. I am all over Nevada. I think they impressed me against San Diego State. The Aztecs had double revenge against the Wolfpack. And the Wolfpack, San Diego State was throwing in the end zone the last play, but it doesn't matter. You finished with an 83-yard edge. You finished with a 19-16 first down edge. You held San Diego State to a season low. You held Wyoming to a season low. New Mexico and Utah to season number 2 lows. I think there's actually value on Nevada, and they very well may be on my card against a Hawaii team, which I think you get a lot of value playing against because of what the results were from last week's game.
I agree, Ralph. I think Nevada is a pretty strong side here. 5-0 straight up, 4-1 ATS as well. So looking towards the Wolfpack and the degenerate special, it sounds like. So, guys, we got best bets. Right before we end it, wanted to say a huge shout out to the chat box. Abby, Dr. M. Vincent, Paco Healy, Johnny Outlaw, all you guys, Naeem as well. Welcome in. Feel free to chime in what you are looking to bet. And also, if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below. Also, smash the like button if you're liking the content as well. But Robbie Veno on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports, #1 handicapper at WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com, up over 200% ROI on the year. Check them out at WagerTalk.com. Robbie, what do you got for best bets, buddy?
Before I start, let me just point out here that in our little Sports Memo Wager Talk competition for who produces the best return on investment, I was #1 all the way until this past Sunday when Yanni the Greek passed me out. So now we're in a little 1-2 battle here, myself and Yanni, but he is actually 1 right now. Numbers are correct. I'm still up over 210% return on investment, but Yanni has taken the lead in that thing. So we'll go back and forth the rest of the year, see who comes out on top. For degenerate special, I'm torn, for best bet, not degenerate special. It's on my mind because I'm torn between 2 games here. I know where Ralph's going, so I'm not going to be stealing anything that he says. But I'm going to go with Nevada, guys. I just, when I watch them play, they're more physical than they've ever been. And they've combined that now under Norvell as head coach after Brian Polian had come in and absolutely destroyed everything Chris Alt built in Reno. This guy's come out and he's made them explosive offensively once again, which is what their fan base is used to. And he's made them physical, and they can run the football physically. So to me, it's way too much for Hawaii to handle. Ralph went over that list of opponents that Hawaii has played, which again, when I said that I don't think Hawaii's pass defense is that great, specifically to his point, when they played lousy pass teams, they look good. And when they played teams that could throw the football, they don't look so good. This team can throw the football as good as anybody in that conference. Strong to dubs, as I mentioned earlier, has become commonplace, but I don't want to sell the rest of that receiving core short because they've all been good. Like I mentioned, they balance the offense out. I don't know that Cordero is going to have a lot of success throwing against them, and I don't think they'll run the football, guys. If Hawaii can't balance things out, they're going to be in a little bit of trouble. So to me, 7 looked a little cheap. I'll go with Nevada -7 as the best bet.
From the number 2 handicapper at WagerTalk.com. My apologies.
Gotta be
Ralph
honest.
Michaels on Twitter at CalSportsLV. What do you got for best bets, bud?
I'm going to go back and give Rob a little bit of a shout out. When he talks about plus 200%, guys, that's simply this. If you're betting $100 per unit and you bet every game Rob released for $100 a unit, you are up $20,000 on the season. So, everyone would be $100 play would be, 200 units, $100 play plus 20 G's. So that's a nice number. And Drew and Rob, I also want to mention our Black Friday special expires this Friday. Normally a year is $19.99. So a great price. You're paying what, $160, $170 a month? Black Friday, the code BF999, you're paying $19.21 per week. You can get a week for $19.21, less than one play. It's a great time to take advantage. Again, Rob, Drew, my college basketball starting, but BF999 gets you a full year, 12 months, 365 days, and it works out to under $20 per week. So take advantage. Bama first half, -14. Rob, the first half total, just FYI, 33. You talked about Auburn scoring in the second half. I agree with you. If I were betting this game, I'm betting Bama -14 as my best bet. I would bet under 33 in the first half and then lean with the over for the full game, expecting that second half to have some scoring when you're up by 21 points and Bama going to a prevent defense.
And Ralph, we did have a little trouble on the last video with mid-major Matt. There was some discrepancy in his best bet. So just to go on record here, what is your best bet?
My best bet, Bama first half -14.
Okay, Bama first half -14 for Ralph Michaels. I am on the Auburn, Alabama, up and over 62, which you can get at Bet Online right now. Auburn versus Alabama over the total 62. We got Robbie Veno, Nevada -7, right, Robbie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ralph Michaels, Alabama first half -14, and I am Auburn, Alabama, the Iron Bowl, up and over the total of 62, which you can get at Bet Online right now. Robbie, you want to throw out anything here in conclusion before we shut this down?
Yeah, Drew, you already did it, but, and I can't remember all their names off the top of my head. I see the scroll come across every time you show us who's commenting in the chat room, but it's the guys that we see all the time. Johnny Outlaw, Paco Healy, Abby Jackson, all these people that watch us every show we do every single week. Thanks to you guys, because the viewership numbers for our shows are, increasing each and every week. They're going through the roof. So we thank all you guys. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving. Hopefully we cash a lot of tickets this weekend.
Good stuff, Robbie. And Ralph, anything in conclusion before we shut this down?
Again, everyone have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. With COVID, if you're not traveling and you're not with loved ones like you should be, call someone, reach out. Don't be alone if you don't have to be. And like I said, make a phone call if you're not in the greatest place because you can't be with family and friends this Thanksgiving. And if you are traveling, safe travels.
And guys, we will be back tomorrow. We got every game on the board, college football and the NFL. So come back and join us. Robbie Veno is a part of it. We'll be pretty much going all day long. We're bringing all the Thursday shows to Wednesday. So no reason to be alone tomorrow. I will be here hosting it down. Robbie will be one of the guests. So we'll be breaking down every single American football game tomorrow right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So guys, please smash the like button.